COBY MAYO is on one. I think it was his 20th overall in the season.
Today makes 21, right?
Or is it 20 or 21 today? He hit another one today.
Did he? I thought you said.
No, he had three in 3 games.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Pretty good. Pretty good from what we're hearing. And actually, then before we ask another, I'll have Rock ask this next question. But you said you really studied COBY MAYO's, like you were watching him swing, not the ball get launched 480 feet, but actually talking about his actual swing and what you were noticing that's made him, special.
Yeah. As I said last time I was on, when he goes into the cage for BP, every round I stop and I watch because it's just he hits balls that are just stupid. Like the launch angles are stupid. It makes no sense. And as I said a couple of weeks ago, the ball goes off the bat and you're like, okay, well, that's a routine fly ball and it lands 8 rows into the seats. And so yesterday he stood in there and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to watch the swing. And I watched him, and he's a big kid, obviously, and he's got this wide stance, and his movement toward the ball is so minimal. Like he doesn't do a lot with his feet at all. And he has really amazingly quick hands. He gets the bat through the zone to the ball efficiently and violently. But however, it's violent, but it's not out of control. It's subdued, and he's not. It's not like Reggie Jackson where he ends up on one knee or his shoes fall off. It's just a hard swing with a lot of really good results. And Buck Britton, the manager here, last year put all the metrics up on the video board during BP, which is really cool and kind of helpful. And so you can see the pitch type, the pitch speed, the launch angle, the exit velo. And he hits so many balls that are 108, 109. And, some of them end up in the seats. Some of them are like line drives over the shortstop. But he just hits the crap out of balls. And it's fun to watch. But, yeah, it was kind of fun to, kind of analyze the swing a little bit. And we talked yesterday privately, and I told you I played baseball for a long time, and good for me. But
but shout out you were playing baseball for a long period of time that people don't know about, and that's you were around the game as a player. Continue.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I told you, I know what it's like to be in a slump. I know what it's like to be seeing the ball really well. I know what it's like to adjust your stance, adjust your load, your lower half, all that stuff. Like I do have an understand. I mean, I say this in all modesty, seriously, but I would say I would argue that I have a better understanding of all that stuff than most people in my profession. Mm-hmm. And so I can speak with, at least some modicum of authority about it. But just watching the way he approaches a pitch, I found it interesting because the results don't line up with how easy it is for him. And, as I've told you on here before, like I think he might be the guy out of all of them, as much as you talk about Jackson and Norby and not to take anything away from them. They're both great dudes, great players, but I just think COBY might end up being the guy.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I actually thought specifically here that COBY has such an upside that's so tremendous that you never know what's going to, you never know with any of these prospects, but you're seeing it where it even feels different. And we saw the home run the other night by COBY MAYO that he was a little bit out in front on a curveball, and he's able to then still keep his body back, his hands in a good positions, and he's so big and strong, he's able to put it out. So it's hard to fool him and for him to not still take advantage, even if he is fooled. So that's the part where it's been so fun to watch. But I guess, Rock, it leads into this question because we are going to get closer here over the next, month, but there are some things that are looming for the Orioles decision-wise.
There are. And, I think Zach's going to touch more on that in the trade deadline. And looking at COBY Mayo as a potential chip for the Orioles going forward. What I wanted to ask you, David, thanks first and foremost for joining the show.
Of course.
If you look at the top prospects for the Orioles back in 2022, there's only 2 in the top 15, if you go back on that list, that have not made their MLB debuts. And one of them is COBY Mayo. And I get he's young. He's 22 years old. We got to see him at spring training for about a week. Brian and I did. And he's just a big kid. I mean, 22 years old, he looks like he's ready from a body standpoint, from a professional baseball player standpoint. My question to you is, a lot of the times, because he's down in Norfolk, he's playing in AAA, people get to see clips. People see the power, people see the stats. From you, who covers him every day, who gets to see what he does in the field, what he does at the plate, and infield, what the Orioles have going on aside and how crowded it is this a guy that is currently big league ready and ready to get that call?
I think in virtually any other organization, he's there already. And he's going to play his way there. I watch him take infield pretty much every day, and he's made great strides defensively. I think that might be a little bit of what's held him back. He has put in the work in that, in that department, on that side of the ball, as they say. But I mean, the offense is just stunning. And it was either today or yesterday, he hit a ball that was, at the nips and just turned it around and hit it 450 feet. And that's what he does. And some of them are majestic parabolas that you can't believe. And I mean, I say this because I was looking at I have access to like his exit velo and launch angle and all that. And some, the launch angle on some of them were 42 degrees. And so, these are obviously higher balls, but some of them, the launch angles on home runs were 20 degrees. And that is what's known in the industry as an ass missile. I mean, just
that's one of the names.
And I mean, it's a hang time of 3 seconds. So, I mean, but more of them are like, he's like, and this is an old man reference, but he's like Ray Guy with a bat, with the way these balls hang up there. So, yeah, I mean, he's got so much pop and so much offensive promise, and the defense is getting there. Yeah, I mean, if they had a need right now, absolutely. And I look, I hate to gush on the kid too much. I even sort of apologized to him yesterday. And I think this says a lot about him, actually. I told Rip this on the phone. I stopped COBY after he took some ground balls yesterday because it was 1,000 degrees and they didn't hit. And he's walking off the field, and I'm like, "Hey, kid, I've been going on some shows and I've been saying some really nice stuff about you. I don't know if it ever gets back to you." And he's like, "Oh, yeah. I appreciate that, man. I like it. Yeah." Like he heard it somehow. I don't know if he watches this show or somebody sent him a clip, or I don't know how that works, but he certainly implied that he is aware of the nice things I've said. And so, and he was very grateful, and he's just a nice, polite kid who's easy to talk to. And I mean, for God's sakes, I believe I said this a couple of weeks ago. When he first got here, our first conversation was about his experience in the Parkland shooting in Florida. And I'm like, "Man, I hate to bring this up, but let's just get it out of the way. But let's just never talk about it again, but let's get it out of the way." And he talked about it pretty freely and up to a point. And then ever since, he's been really accommodating, and he's never turned me down. Even after he broke his rib, he talked to me and told, before he went to Florida to rehab it. And he told me that day, he's like, "I'm going to be back way before people think I will." And guess what? 26 days later, he's playing again and hitting. Yeah. I think he hit 4 home runs in 3 games at high A. So yeah,
he's hitting. We also can call them piss missiles, but ass missiles is also a way. The David Hall special, a good old ass missile from COBY Mayo, baby.
I'm quoting an old reliever I used to cover. That's what he called it.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. There's different forms here, but it'll be the David Hall ass missile of the day. But Zach, one more question that revolves around Mr. COBY Mayo.
Yeah, and I Yeah, I'm gonna.
There we go.
So David, thanks for joining us again. You
Yes.
kind of talked about how in any other organization, COBY Mayo would most likely be up and probably be your starting everyday third baseman.
Yeah.
So when you know that a kid at just this young has so much talent, when it comes to in a month, we're sitting at the trade deadline. In your eyes, is he a player where you're like, there's no way the Orioles can let him go because he has that much talent? Or do you think, unfortunately, he could be someone that starts getting an opportunity elsewhere?
Well, you never know. And it's a good question, a fair question. Personally, I think they'd be foolish to let him go, which I would say to anybody in the organization. Like, not that they want my opinion, but I guess there is some value in seeing the kid every day and being around him and knowing what kind of person he is. And I mean, I'll say the same about Norby and Jax. I mean, and many others. These are they a few years ago they just started drafting good dudes, and God, it's made my job a lot easier, as opposed to 10 years ago when as I've said before on here, the locker room was full of derelicts and criminals. But yeah, I mean, I don't see COBY as a piece. Norby could be, and he and I have talked about that many times. He's well aware. I mean, the way he puts it is, this is a business, and I want to play in the major leagues somewhere. I hope it's with the Orioles, but you know, if it's not, that's fine. And he's another guy who would be in, like, if he were he in the Oakland A's organization, for example, I think he's one of their best players.
Yeah, I was gonna say in so many organizations, and you can, like you said, you can say it for so many guys that the Orioles are trying to find opportunities to give chances to, and then you look and you're like, other organizations, you would be the star player of that organization. You would be the guy that sells tickets. So you do, as an Oriole fan covering the Orioles, you have to understand, like, wow, it is so special what they're doing right now. And I think you hit the nail on the head about they've drafted just great guys and they've all become just even better baseball players. And it's a tough situation to be in for this front office. But at the end of the day, it's a good problem to have when you're like, we have too much talent.
Yeah. I mean,
go ahead, Rip.
I was just going to say, you know, another guy, it's philosophy too, right? So like the Milwaukee Brewers are a team that's playing that, you know, high, you know, they're top in the NL Central. Jackson Chourio, the other top prospect at the time, he stayed in the bigs and started, but he's had a lot of struggles. He started to kind of, you know, up and down, but it's your philosophy as an organization. And then for the Orioles, though, it's hard to try to take guys out of a lineup when the team with that same group just won 102 games last year. Sorry, Dave, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say it never stops being weird for me, and I don't understand this part of my job, but I'll turn on the Orioles game and you know, there's Cedric and there's Mountie and there's Gunner and Cowser and like all these dudes who have spent time here, who were just like my coworkers for a long time. And I look at guys like Norby and Mayo, and like there's like this sense of inevitability that I'm gonna have the same feeling with those dudes. And you know, obviously with Norby, I already have, because he went up for a while. With Jackson, he went up for a while, and then they come back here, and sometimes they're changed. Sometimes it turns them into being bitter and aloof, and you know, thinking they're too big now to talk to me. But that hasn't been the case with these guys. Like Norby talked to me as soon as he got back. So did Jackson.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, it was a great experience. It was the best thing, you know, better than I imagined. I can't wait to go back. And they were just really honest about it. And I think that speaks very highly of how the Orioles have vetted these prospects. Well, you know, these potential draftees, and they've just done a fabulous job of getting not only good players but good people. So it's kudos to the Orioles.
No doubt about that. It is big kudos to those and what they've built and the culture that they've continued to show with the amount of just genuine human beings that they've brought in.